Welcome back to Season 2 of Snubs and Dubs, where we're talking the snubs and dubs of the 87th Academy Award for Best Picture. I'm your host, Kyle Tobiasson, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Jason Miller. Jason, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's the weekend, and a long one.
It is a long one.
It's gonna be this is kicking off relaxation hours.
Yeah.
So I'm doing pretty great. How about you, Kyle?
I'm doing good, too. You got any plans this long weekend, or is it just relaxation nation over in the Miller zone?
Well, all my roommates are gone. They're all on vacation except for me because I started a new job and I can't get vacation time on day one.
Yeah.
So the house is to myself, and that in and of itself is a relaxation station, even though I'm helping my sister move one day and then doing like assignments another day, and I have to do some cleaning and stuff. But I'll be alone. I can sing loudly without shame or repercussions. So that's a weekend.
Did you watch anything in the last week?
I only watched one movie.
Yeah.
The Power of the Dog.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Got around to that. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I watched it with my girlfriend, and she had a powerful realization about the movie that a lot of people might have missed.
Yeah.
So this is a very brief spoiler. So skip ahead a little bit if you don't want it to be spoiled.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. But in the scene where the main character is in the coffin and they just shaved him, they took his mustache off. My girlfriend turns to me and says, "Wow, he looks like Benedict Cumberbatch."
Wow.
She was not aware that was the person who she had been watching up until that point.
Wow, he really transformed.
Yeah, he really looks like that one British actor, that cucumber guy.
Oh, I mean, he was really good in that movie.
He was really good. Like, other than the fact that, like, obviously it looks like him because it is him.
Yeah.
He doesn't act like a classic Benedict character because he's Benedict.
Yeah, he is a bit of a Benedict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. It was good. I love Western things. I was right in the zone, right at home as soon as like it opens up. I'm like, just a shit ton of cattle. It's like, oh baby, we're here.
Wide open plains.
Yeah. So I enjoyed it. It was good.
It was good.
Yeah.
And like, do you think you would rewatch it again?
I could see myself rewatching it. If someone else watching it, I definitely would get in on that. I might rewatch it leading up to Oscars 2022, just in case, just refresh myself, because I didn't hate it. It was actually pretty enjoyable. I liked the set design. The costumes were good. I feel like, I don't remember. I was going to look it up to see if it had nominations in those categories. I feel like it does.
It led the Academy Awards for nominations, even ahead of Dune, which swept in like all the technical categories. Yeah. So
I feel like it's going to get a couple, but.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I have my theories about what that's going to win, but we'll talk about that a little closer to the season ending.
How about you, Kyle? What did you get watching this week?
Yeah, so as I kind of mentioned last week, I watched Murder on the Orient Express to prepare myself for Death on the Nile, and I did in fact watch Death on the Nile.
Yep.
And it was pretty fun.
Nice.
There's like some bad acting at points, but
that's what I've heard.
Yeah, but it's just like, it's just kind of corny.
Yeah.
And it's just really easy to watch. Like, and
that's all you need.
Yeah. Kenneth Branagh is just like such a character.
Yeah.
Like you see like a character in a movie and they're just like a person playing a thing. I don't really know where this is. Yeah, they're just acting. But like Kenneth Branagh is like a defined like character. Like he's kind of larger than life in many ways, but it's fun to watch. So yeah, I mean, I would recommend it. I actually think I liked it better than Murder on the Orient Express.
Interesting.
So, yeah. And I also watched Uncharted.
Right. How was that?
Also pleasantly surprising. It was a good amount of fun.
Did Tom Holland need to apologize for what he had done?
No, I don't think so. Like, I think he was probably being a little hard on himself.
Probably.
But like he got jacked for that.
Ooh.
Like even like, cause he he's obviously toned and like, and muscular for Spider-Man, but like he was built like different on Uncharted. Like you get a lot of shots of him and he looks like he's almost like too big for his body.
Interesting, because he's not a tall man.
No, he's not. But yeah, he did pretty good. And it was well paced, I thought. Like there was never really a dull moment. It was pretty much, it's like transitioning from action set piece to action set piece to like exploration mode. And yeah, I hope they do another one.
I want to catch that. I've heard a lot better things than I expected to. So I'm actually interested in watching it now.
And I think like don't be swayed by the Rotten Tomatoes score if you were thinking about going to see it but then weren't, because I think it's got a pretty low. It's like 39%.
Oh wow, that's
Rotten Tomatoes right now.
Very low. But like, I never look at reviews before I'll know, like my friends who always go and catch movies, I'll listen to what they say and leave it. I don't like looking up reviews early on because they're never going to stop wherever they start from.
Yeah.
There's kind of no point.
And I think there was almost like a predisposition to not like this movie.
Yes.
I feel like everyone anticipated this movie was going to be bad.
Yeah.
And so when it kind of validated some people's imagined version of the movie, they immediately just continued to hate on it. And it was like they were in that mindset throughout the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Where like I just kind of went in thinking that, you know, you might have to turn your brain off a little bit, but it's just going to be fun regardless. And it was.
And I bet you a lot of people were very whelmed by it. They probably went in not expecting much, had a decent time, and then didn't bother talking about that online because that doesn't make very fiery commentary. But the people who hated it will probably be out in droves. So it's going to take a while to like even out.
Yeah. But yeah, that was all I watched.
Wicked.
Otherwise, I've been into Attack on Titan lately. I'm on another anime. I'm only on another
anime run.
Yeah.
Is this your first time watching it or is this a rewatch?
This is the first time I've been going through Attack on Titan, which is obviously a very popular one that everyone's like, you need to watch Attack on Titan. Have you ever watched it?
No, but I started it, but I didn't get very far into it. Not a reflection of the show. I have a very short attention span.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. And like, things happen so fast. It's one of those where like either the characters don't know what's happening and so you also don't know what's happening, or the characters know more than you and you like end the episode thinking like, what the fuck just happened? And then you eventually learn as it continues to go, but you're like never ahead of the characters in any regard.
Interesting.
And so it kind of keeps you on your toes in that way, but it's really fun. I've enjoyed it. Obviously, it's like it stretches some of its content in these episodes, and like I was talking to Molly about like how this could be a movie, because I tend to think about that when I'm watching a TV show or like playing a game. Like, how can you trim this to make it a movie? And there's so much just like fluff of them just like talking to each other or like soaring through the forest and just like they're gliding for like what seems like an infinite amount of time just so they can get a conversation. Then they have like a flashback. But yeah, so I'm enjoying it, and I'll probably finish season 1 tonight. And
Wicked.
Reflect. But yeah.
Nice.
Well, we should get into it because
we have an episode here.
We do have an episode, and oh boy, is it going to be an episode. We had a nice and easy last week with Big Hero 6 being a small Snubs episode.
Yes.
But this is going to be a big one because it is the longest movie that we're covering this season by 4 minutes.
Wow. Running away with the title.
Yeah. The second longest one is 165 minutes. And I think that is like even like 20 minutes longer than the third longest movie. There's two just like massively long ones. And this is the one. Figured we'd get it out of the way. Of course, season 2 of Snubs and Dubs is covering films from the year 2014. And for episode 3, we're talking about Christopher Nolan's Interstellar. So you hadn't seen this before.
I have never seen this before. And God damn, am I filled with regret. Oh my God. Matt, I am so upset that I did not watch this in IMAX.
Yeah.
Yep. I feel terrible, ashamed. I will be issuing an apology later. I'm still working on the wording.
Yeah. And I can imagine like even just watching through on like this TV here, the 65-inch, and I have a 4K disc of it. Like, it's a beautiful looking movie.
Yeah.
And the scope is just insanely large. And I did actually get the pleasure of seeing this in IMAX when it came out. And I remember watching it in IMAX, which like I can't even remember half the movies I saw last year, like sitting in the theater. But like this one I can, because it's got such an awe scope of it.
Yeah.
And this one's actually one I'd seen multiple times, even maybe more so than some of Nolan's more popular ones, which is strange because this one does have its like controversial takes, or like, you know, people don't like it as much as some of his other ones like Inception or even like The Prestige or obviously the Batman trilogy.
Oh yeah.
But for some reason, this one is I keep going back to, and I actually like it even more every time I go back to it because I think it does so well with like world building.
Yeah.
But let's
just dive right in.
If you were interested in Interstellar, I've included the links to the physical media related to it in the show notes. If you buy through that link, it'll help out our show. Or if you have any other Amazon shopping to do, follow that general link to help out our show in the process. Reminder that this is going to be a spoiler-filled conversation. So if you haven't seen Interstellar yet and you want to, go ahead and do so. But without further ado, let's get into it.
In Earth's future, a global crop blight and a second dust bowl are slowly rendering the planet uninhabitable. Professor Brand, a brilliant NASA physicist, is working on plans to save mankind by transporting Earth's population to a new home via a wormhole. But first, Brand must send former NASA pilot Cooper and a team of researchers through the wormhole and across the galaxy to find out which of 3 planets could be mankind's new home. This is directed by Christopher Nolan, written by Jonathan Nolan and Christopher Nolan, those Nolan boys back at it. This stars Matthew McConaughey as Cooper, Anne Hathaway as Amelia Brand, Jessica Chastain as Murph, Michael Caine as Professor Brand, Bill Irwin as the voice of Tars, Ellen Burstyn as Old Murph, but most importantly, America's dad, John Lithgow, who you may know from Daddy's Home 2, as Donald. John Lithgow makes me so happy just to see him.
I know, right?
I've never been upset by him, even in Daddy's Home 2. He was still somehow a shining, warm light.
Yeah, he's just like, it's the grandpa you want to have.
Yeah. Oh, man, love him. This has a runtime of lots at 165 minutes, was released on October 26th, 2014. Kyle, what did you think of Interstellar?
I really like Interstellar. I think it's really well built. I don't know what the best way to put that is. It's obviously well directed. I think it had a very definitive voice and vision behind it. And they did a really good job at kind of balancing like the sciencey stuff with like actually just having like an interesting drama with cool and exciting action sequences. Yeah. What did you think of Interstellar?
So I knew going into this that there was a lot of controversy. There was a lot of people who hated it. There were a lot of people who liked it. There was everyone in between. And I came out a big Interstellar stan. It was really good. I enjoyed a lot of it. There are things that kind of took me out of it. Matthew McConaughey was a large portion of that.
Oh, really?
Especially at the start. I grew to love him.
Yeah.
I grew into it. Could not stand him at the start. But there's so much that works so well for this. This is an incredible, like, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's well crafted. I hate time travel stuff. It never sticks for me. Every time I watch time travel stuff, something bothers me about that. This was really well done time travel stuff. Nothing annoyed me about it. And normally, like watching Tenet, not a fan.
No.
Didn't love the time travel components of that. A lot of other time travel movies, not a huge fan of.
No.
But this one did it well.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, no, I was blown away by it. I loved the sound that went into it. All the design was so well crafted. Oh, it was a good movie.
It was a good movie. And like, I think all the actors do a really good job too. Like even the ones back at home, like Casey Affleck is like an older Tom and Jessica Chastain is older Murph or like mid-aged Murph. And like, while that story wasn't always the more interesting part of what was going on, it was a necessary part, but they still just like grounded the movie a little bit and they did a really good job. Obviously, Matthew McConaughey has some very heart-wrenching scenes in the middle of this, and Anne Hathaway did actually a pretty good job.
I thought Anne Hathaway was brilliant. I couldn't do the start of Matthew McConaughey. He got there for me. He definitely did. But while he was on Earth, he bothered me. I kind of know what it was about him that bothered me. I'll probably get to there and interject with some stuff. But at the start, I was not a McConaughey fan.
Yeah. He does a lot of his classic like McConaughey mumble that just like takes him through the beginning. And it was kind of funny when you see a scene with like him and Michael Caine, which are like the two most like impressioned people out of like any actors. And like Michael Caine's just like, I'm Michael Caine. And then McConaughey's just like,
this is a spaceship.
Yeah, it was just funny to see. But should we just open this plot?
Diving in.
Yeah, we gotta go. We open on a dusty bookshelf as an elderly woman tells us through a documentary that her dad was a farmer. Next, we meet Cooper, Matthew McConaughey himself, as he's awakened from a nightmare of him crashing a spacecraft by his daughter, Murph. The elderly woman continues explaining that their world is pretty bleak. Dust covers everything and most crops struggle to grow except for corn, which Cooper grows on his farm. Cooper, his son Jack, and his daughter Murph live on their farm with the father of Cooper's deceased wife, Donald. Murph has a, quote, ghost in her room that has been knocking things off of her bookshelf. Cooper tells her to look at it more scientifically than paranormally. Then Donald informs Cooper that he has to attend a parent-teacher meeting. On the way, the truck blows a tire, but all concern for the vehicle is dropped when an Indian Air Force drone flies overhead. The family chases down the drone and takes it over before bringing it down and stripping it for parts. At the school, we continue to learn just how bleak this future is as Murph is punished for having an interest in the Apollo missions, which are now apparently fake. Priorities of this, quote, caretaker generation are farming and food, not engineers and scientists. Cooper rewards Murph's behavior, though, and gets her suspended from school. I really like the bit of world building that they had to do here because, like, it kind of sets up how it is just like you can imagine it in a way. Like, it doesn't seem like that far of a future or like that's some sort of pest or what is it, like a disease is like taking over all these crops and now everyone just eats corn, and that the entire focus of the education system is being like stripped down to farming and caretaking jobs because they don't want people to like dream about going into any sort of better field.
Yeah, because they can't afford to.
Yeah.
And it feels like, I don't know if they ever explain exactly the path that they got to get there, but it feels very much like global climate change has just rendered so much of the land unarable and they're just really running out. And you feel that like they have to restructure to survive and they're desperate.
Yeah. And like it really hits when they change it in the education system level. Like, and like that teacher, like genuinely believing that the Apollo missions were faked and like they had to change the textbook to correct it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just kind of fucked up. When they return home, the farming equipment that Cooper has built is all mysteriously gathering around Cooper's house. The strangeness continues in Murph's room as her ghost continues to knock books off the shelves in some sort of pattern. Murph tries to translate into Morse code, but Cooper doesn't think it's anything. Later, at a very sad New York Yankees game, a dust storm hits, forcing everyone to get indoors. Cooper and his family get home, and when Murph realizes that she had left her window open, her and Coop rush upstairs to close it, only to find a new mysterious pattern floating in the dust and collecting on the floor.
I just want to say, New York Stankies.
That was so sad.
That team sucked.
Yeah, that looked like just like a community league baseball team.
Like below.
Yeah. After a night to think it over, Cooper realizes that the pattern was formed by a gravitational anomaly and that the result was coordinates for something in binary. Cooper heads out to see where the coordinates lead and discovers that Murph has tagged along for the ride. When they get to the destination, they find the hiding place of the remaining members of NASA, led by Professor Brand, Michael Caine. We also meet Brand's daughter, Amelia Brand, Anne Hathaway, Doyle, Romley, and Tars, the robot, all of which are working on executing a plan to leave Earth through two paths. Plan A is to find a habitable world in the time it takes for NASA to figure out how they can harness gravity the way that these anomalies seem to have been, to launch their workplace/spaceship and to take humanity with them into space. Or Plan B, find the habitable world and repopulate it through a population bomb of over 5,000 fertilized human eggs. They need to execute either of these plans as the virus that is wiping out food sources is also removing oxygen from the air, meaning, quote, the last people to survive will be the first to suffocate. Professor Brand predicts that this will occur in only one generation top, so Murph's generation. Very scary.
That's pretty quick. That feels bad to not have much time.
Their hope begins with a wormhole that was placed near Saturn by someone that leads to another galaxy. 12 astronauts, including the remarkable Dr. Mann, have already been sent through the wormhole, and 3 potentially habitable worlds have been identified. Professor Brand wants Cooper to pilot the Endurance mission to the 3 habitable worlds, promising to have solved the problem of gravity when he returns. Coop agrees, which upsets Murph, obviously. Murph tells Cooper that the translated message from the ghost says, stay. Cooper brushes it off and tells Murph that due to time running differently, they might be the same age when he returns and gives her a watch. Cooper leaves, promising Murph that he's coming back. This was a hard scene, but he kind of could have navigated it a little bit better.
Yeah.
Like he was fascinated by the fact that he might be the same age as Murph when he returns, but like clearly you have no idea if you're coming back or when you're coming back.
That is not what you wanted to
hear.
No,
absolutely not. Finally, we're in space. With 2 years to the wormhole, the crew enter hypersleep after Brand explains to Cooper the 3 planets. I say Professor Brand when I'm referring to Michael Caine and Brand when we're referring to Anne Hathaway. Because that's how they're referred to in the movie. So just to clear that up. So Brand explains to Cooper the 3 planets, Miller's, Edmonds, and Mann's. Back on Earth, Professor Brand returns Cooper's truck to Tom and expresses interest in educating Murph. 2 years later, the crew wakes up and Cooper watches the messages from Tom and Donald, but nothing from Murph has come through. The crew enters a wormhole and are transported into the next galaxy. As they pass through, Brand has an encounter with, quote, them, and she handshakes distorted space-time. The potential planets orbit a black hole called Gargantua, which complicates things as time will move quicker on Earth when they've landed. The first planet is Miller's planet, where every hour is 7 years on Earth. Cooper, Brand, Doyle, and Case, the other robot, head to Miller's planet, while Romley and Tars stay behind to study Gargantua and its gravity. The team lands on Miller's planet and finds Miller's craft destroyed and Miller missing, presumed dead. The beacon was intact, and Brand realizes that due to the time slippage, it's very likely that on this planet she may have just landed minutes ago. Cooper realizes that the, quote, mountains ahead that they see are actually just big-ass fucking waves. Brand tries to collect Miller's data, but gets stuck, and Case has to go retrieve her. Just as Brand gets back to the ship, Doyle is washed away and killed, and the ship is brought over the wave and waterlogged. They now have to wait for the engines to drain, which could take 45 minutes to an hour, meaning they'll lose decades. This is a cool fucking scene.
This is such a cool scene. And like the weight of it really weighs on you. It's a good death that they have for Doyle because you don't actually know if he's going to make it or not.
Yeah.
It's down to the wire. And he could have and put them all at more risk, but he doesn't, to make sure that everyone else is going to live and closes the hatch behind, like in front of him.
Yeah, exactly. And like it seemed for a while that Anne Hathaway's character wasn't going to make it.
Yeah.
Because like Case has to go and retrieve her because she's stuck underneath this like machinery. And so you kind of assume for a little while that Doyle's just going to be there and he's fine because he's standing next to the ship, but then he just gets swept away. And
yeah, because he tries to hold the door open.
Yeah.
Tries to be a gentleman. Finish last by dying.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know what you have for the facts there, but in the score, because Hans Zimmer has like a really cool score here, but there's like a ticking on this planet.
Yeah.
Do you have anything about this?
No,
okay.
Not in my cool facts thing.
Yeah, and I read somewhere that they intentionally did this sort of like ticking beat to indicate the rhythm of how many days or weeks were passing on Earth every like minute they were staying on that planet. And so like it kind of intensifies the anxiety of the situation because you know like every minute that they're staying there, like this rhythm is clicking along and like just time is being wasted.
And that's actually a reoccurring theme. A lot of the score, especially at intense parts, is 60 BPM just to have like, so you feel the passage of time because it's on the second.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of clock throughout the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
That like, and I didn't realize that at first until like later in the movie, but going back to it when I was kind of like just kind of watching some stuff on it afterwards, it's throughout the whole thing to do that, which is really cool because it makes you feel so nervous and uncomfortable with that ticking, that time slipping.
Yeah. And like time, I kind of identify time as a resource early on before they land near Gargantua and onto Miller's planet. Like it really sets the stage for like, you know, in movies where they show you that the bomb is under the table and it's ticking away. And so like it increases the anxiety of the situation because they're like, are they going to finish this conversation or is the bomb going to go off? Like the bomb is essentially just time passing by. And like the fact that Cooper's children back at home are living an entire lifetime while he's spending like an hour on this planet. And it's really scary.
Yeah.
After a quick chat about how time travel is impossible unless maybe you can figure out gravity, I don't know, another wave looms. Cooper manages to clear the engines and blast them off back to the Endurance, where they see an older Romley who has apparently been waiting 23 years for them to return.
I think they did that so well.
Yeah.
Where they just drop on you, it's been 23 years. They don't spend a lot of time investigating that. You're just left with the weight of that.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Yeah. And like the actor, like I think he said that he went to hypersleep a few times, but you just put a little bit of gray on him. And I think they aged up his face a little bit just to show, like as soon as he walks in, like, oh shit, like this guy's older now.
Yeah.
Like, he's old. Cooper goes straight to the messages where he watches his son graduate high school, grow up, have a baby, lose his baby, lose his grandfather, and finally let go of Cooper. Then we see Murph call Cooper on the day that she turned the same age that Cooper was when he left. I liked how they kind of kept on Matthew McConaughey here for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I was watching in a video that Apparently, Timothée Chalamet was a little bit upset with this because he was obviously in those recordings and they spend most of the time not watching his face in the recordings because this is a younger Timothée Chalamet, right?
Yeah.
This is like early in his career. And so like he was just basically a voice off screen for most of that. And like he didn't really have a lot to do. But
his character in general in the movie, no one cares about him.
Exactly, yeah.
McConaughey does not give one shit about his son.
No, it's all about Murph. Yeah. The message brings us back to Earth briefly, where an older Murph now works at NASA and clashes with the very old Professor Brand about a flaw in his equation for gravity. Since the trip took longer, the Endurance doesn't have enough fuel to visit both other planets and return home. The remaining crew has to decide which planet to go to. Dr. Brand wants to go to Edmund's planet because she figures the data is stronger than man's. And also, she kind of loves Edmund's.
I love how that's introduced, where McConaughey's like, do you want to tell Rom your secret about that?
Yeah.
She's like, that has nothing to do with that. And then he says that she loves him. And she's like, yes, I love him entirely and completely. And that's why I want to go there. Your story's straight, Brand.
Yeah.
Come on.
Brand argues that love is the only thing that transcends the dimensions of time and space and that it's worth trusting. But Cooper thinks her feelings are clouding her judgment, and he charts a course for man's planet. Brand points out, since their fuel calculations include a return trip, if man's planet doesn't pan out, they'll now have to decide if they want to return home or ensure the survival of the human race on Edmund's planet with Plan B. Back on Earth, Professor Brand dies, but before doing so, he informs Murph that he lied to her and the entire crew of the Endurance, and that he had already solved the gravity problem and it had failed, and that there was never any hope of the Endurance crew returning to Earth. Murph now believes that her father abandoned her, knowing he wouldn't return. She calls Dr. Brand to inform her of her father's death and asks him if she knew that it was all a sham. What do you think about this?
Pretty heavy.
Yeah.
It seemed like no one else actually knew that it was a sham.
Yeah.
And that it was just Caine wanting to send some embryos out into space.
And like, why did he not just tell her that he didn't tell the crew of the Endurance?
Yeah.
Because he had his dying breaths and he had to recite poetry or some shit. Like,
for like the 100th time.
I know. Like
we've heard it.
Yeah, exactly.
You should just get it tattooed at some point, buddy.
Basically.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that just didn't cross his mind. I mean, like he was dying and all.
Yeah.
He just really only had it in the tank for 2 messages.
Yeah.
And one was like the poem that's just his default brain setting.
Yeah, but it also like makes you reflect on Michael Caine's performance throughout the entire beginning too, because like he was basically hiding that information from Cooper the entire time, and even from Murph for like the entire time that he was educating her and building her up to work at NASA and work on this problem with her. Like he basically wasted her time in a sense.
Yeah, that's what my question was. Like, why take her on? You don't need to solve this thing. You already know it's unsolvable, or that like your solution doesn't work or whatever. So kind of what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. If you already know that this generation of people is probably doomed, then like I get the fact that you want to not cause a panic, but like why waste everybody's time? I don't know. It's just strange. The crew of the Endurance land on Miller's cold, icy, desolate planet to find Dr. Man, aka Surprise Matt Damon. Were you surprised by this, or did you know?
No, I knew he was in there. I didn't know who he was, but I knew he was in it.
Yeah, I didn't know that he was in it when it was in theaters. And like, yeah, it's just like surprise hits you like, oh shit, Matt Damon.
It's Matt Damon.
And
I don't like his chances of living. It's Matt Damon.
Yeah. And they did a good job actually early on too, because they have all the photos of the 12 astronauts that went off to find these planets. And they mentioned Dr. Man and they refer to his photo, but it's always out of focus. Like they never actually zoom in to show what Dr. Man looks like. So you never actually know it's Matt Damon. Yeah. Dr. Man explains his findings to the crew and it seems hopeful, given the fact that there is a supposed surface on the planet that has breathable air. TARS relays the message from the Endurance that Murph sent to Brand and Cooper and Brand watch in horror as Murph exposes Professor Brand's lie. Amelia Brand did not know, but Dr. Man did. Man explains that the equation couldn't be solved without data from inside a black hole, and that Plan B was always the primary goal. The Earth was hopeless. Cooper decides that he needs to go home, and Romley tells Cooper that there is an opportunity to send TARS into the black hole on his way back to get all the data they really need. Romley needs a part from Dr. Mann's decommissioned robot, and Cooper takes a walk with Dr. Mann. Turns out Dr. Mann is actually Dr. Madman, who selfishly faked his data and turned on the beacon after he realized his planet wasn't the one so that he could be rescued. Dr. Mann removes Cooper's comms and tosses it aside before pushing Cooper down a cliff. Cooper and Mann brawl, resulting in Cooper's helmet getting cracked.
I just want to say, if you go for a walk with someone and it's just like a little stroll outside and they spend the entirety of the walk talking about death, dying, people's last moments, what you see before you die, the human spirit of endurance, those are all red flags. Have a buddy with you. You should not go one-on-one with this person.
Absolutely not. And like this character is like, it's obviously it's horrible, but it's also kind of sad.
Yeah.
Because like he clearly wanted to live, and he says like he never considered the idea that this planet wasn't going to be the one that would work for the population bomb.
Yeah, he does a good job of it. It is a really intriguing role.
Yeah.
Even though he very quickly turns supervillain.
Yeah.
I understand what drove him to do what he did. And I thought it was a really cool like storyline that got him there.
Mann also rigged his robot to blow up so no one could see the false data, which results in Romley being killed. Dr. Mann takes one of the ships and blasts off towards the Endurance. Cooper manages to get his comms and call Dr. Brand, who comes and rescues him. TARS survived the explosion that killed Romley and boards with Cooper and Brand. TARS turns off the auto-docking, so Dr. Mann has to attempt to do it manually, but he fails to get perfect contact. As a result, when he opens the airlock, he explodes along with a piece of the Endurance. This was such a fucking tense scene.
Yeah.
My God.
And the way that they did the sound design of him ultimately going kablooey was amazing. It was so good. It snatches your attention.
Yeah. And like, that's just kind of a brief line, but that whole section is so tense. And like everything works in it. Like you said, the sound design and just like how they're trying to communicate with him to like, don't try it. Like it's not going to work. Don't try it. And sure enough, he tries it, and
and you just get his desperation.
Yeah.
And he's just like a slightly less lucky Matthew McConaughey character because McConaughey tries to do as much probably gonna fail shit as Matt Damon does.
Yeah.
But Damon just slips up once and that's it.
Yeah. What a great scene. The explosion puts the Endurance into a spin and on a collision course with Miller's planet, so Cooper and TARS have to spin their ship to match that of the Endurance to dock. They pull it off and recover the spin, then blast the Endurance away from the planet's orbit. In the meantime, on Earth, Murph's doctor boyfriend, which is another surprise. What's his name?
Crap, I don't remember.
Venom in Spider-Man 3. Topher Grace.
Yes, thank you.
Surprise Topher Grace as well. Yeah, so Murph's doctor boyfriend, Topher Grace, assists Tom's wife and son, Cooper. Did you realize that? He's like in the messages, he's like, we had another kid, like we're thinking about naming the next one Coop.
Yeah.
His last name is Cooper.
Yeah.
So they're naming him Cooper.
Yeah. It's not good.
This is why Murph was the favorite child, Tom.
One of them is just so much smarter than the other. Goddamn.
So Topher Grace realizes that it is not safe to live on that farm anymore. They try to tell Tom to leave, but he won't do it. So Murph sets fire to a part of the field so that Tom would be busy and Murph and boyfriend Topher Grace can get Tom's wife and son away from the house. Murph enters the house and starts going through her old stuff. Back in space, since they've used so much fuel, they will not have enough to return home. Cooper comes up with a plan to use Gargantua's gravity to launch them towards Edmund's planet so they can set up the colony using Plan B. The plan involves shedding the weight of TARS' ship and launching him into the black hole. However, Cooper keeps from Brand that they also need to shed a little extra weight, including him and his ship, and he launches himself into the black hole along with TARS. Cooper and TARS execute the maneuver, which costs them 51 more years, and TARS and Cooper head right into the middle of the black hole. Cooper enters the trippy world of the black hole before ejecting into an even weirder world. He finds himself in a strange three-dimensional space created by, again, quote, them, in a fifth-dimensional reality. The space is actually endless moments from Murph's childhood bedroom, and Cooper watches as the past plays out in front of him from behind Murph's bookcase. Cooper realizes that he can influence the bookcase and starts putting through the same messages that Murph's ghosts was giving. This plays out as current Murph is figuring out the solution using her younger self's records from the ghost. Cooper hears from TARS that TARS has compiled the quantum data from the black hole, but he can't send it out. Cooper thinks about how he can send it out and realizes that the, quote, they everyone was referring to is actually just future humans using gravity to send messages through time, ensuring Cooper ends up in this space to relay the message to Murph of the quantum data. Cooper asks TARS to translate the quantum data into Morse code and uses gravity to program the Morse code into the watch he gave Murph before he left. This is where I think this movie loses a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So what did you think of this section?
I really wanted it to end after he sends the information because I think they undo some of the really cool world building that they do. I guess there's two things that are kind of lost in this scene. One is the mystique of the fifth dimensional beings who are controlling it. It's like, oh, it's just future humans. And you also lose a lot of the accomplishment of the characters in this film because they're always going to do it. It wasn't always in their control. It was just kind of like they're following a set path to get there. Yeah. And I think that kind of did some damage to the overall like mythos of it.
Yeah, it is one of those like time travel rules where it's like this always happened kind of rule. Yeah. Kind of like in Harry Potter with the necklace, that basically everything happens as it was supposed to happen. It's just like looping, I guess.
And that's one of the things that I normally don't like about time travel. I didn't hate it because the effect that the time travel had felt minor most of the movie. Yeah. That it wasn't like, oh, the whole movie is controlled by these sets of things. Like you learn as you go, and only at the end is it revealed that like they kind of had small parts of just sending messages back. Yeah. But then if it wasn't humans creating the Tesseract that Matthew McConaughey is in, I think it gets better. If it's just Matthew McConaughey stumbling into something bigger than him and using what he could to send back what he could to Murph, I'm fine with that. Yeah. But the fact that it's humans doing that just kind of softens it a bit.
Yeah. And like, when did this begin, really?
Yeah. And when does this happen in the future to create this thing for you to get into?
Yeah, because the entire plot of this movie hinges on the fact that they have an initial wormhole that they're able to go through that like is not natural. It was placed there by something or someone. And so like, when was that first placed there?
Yeah. Why did they wait for most of humanity to die to put it there? Yeah. Why couldn't they have done that before all the death?
It's kind of strange. But yeah, I do also like the scene where Matthew McConaughey is kind of figuring out how to communicate through the bookcase. Yeah. And like Matthew McConaughey does like some really good acting here too. Yes. Where he's just like screaming through the bookcase.
And I like the path that he takes where initially when he's able to communicate back, he tries to send stay so that he doesn't go to do that. But then when he figures out that he has to be here for humanity to have a chance, then he sends the coordinates to NASA. Yeah. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely an interesting third act reveal sort of thing. Yeah. I didn't expect it the first time that I was watching it to have any of this go down. But yeah, I guess it's like, it's unique in that sense because I could not have anticipated that happening at all.
Oh, me neither.
Yeah. Present day Murph finds the watch and realizes what her dad is doing. She runs back to NASA and solves the equation. Back in the black hole, once the data is totally translated into the watch, the space collapses and Cooper is launched out into space, where he first touches Brand's hand, bringing us back to that moment, and then passes out just outside of Saturn. A pair of ranger ships pick up Cooper and he awakens in a hospital bed that is a ring colony orbiting Saturn. Murph is still alive, but she is very old and on her deathbed. Cooper is led to a replica of his old house where he finds TARS and boots him back up. Cooper then meets with Murph, who is surrounded by her children and grandchildren. Murph tells Cooper to go and find Brand instead of watching his daughter die. Brand is alive on Edmund's planet, setting up the colony alone as Edmund has passed away. As Brand removes her helmet and takes a deep breath on the new world, Cooper manages to steal a ranger ship and begins his journey to her. The end.
Wow. Hot take, kill Cooper. He doesn't need to live.
Yeah.
I wish he didn't get, like, the ending seems so impossible that he gets booted out of the black hole where someone can grab him in the infinite amount of space. Just let him die. Yeah. I think that's a more compelling ending for him because he doesn't do anything after. Yeah. You can find us another way to learn about how Murph has figured out these things and done what she does. You don't need Cooper to walk us through that. Let him have a cool hero's death.
Yeah, like have him die once he finishes translating the data into the watch, basically. Yeah. And then like Murph still has that moment where she realizes that this is her dad. translating this through gravity towards her. And so she knows that he hadn't given up on her, that he didn't want to like leave her. And so like you still get that kind of resolve in her.
Yeah.
You don't need him to come back. But I think that was probably done maybe in like a crowd pleaser type of way.
That's what I'm kind of thinking too, because it really felt like the movie was wrapped and then he woke up for a quick 15-minute bring it home.
Yeah. Cool. That's a cool movie.
That was a good plot summary. That was a good way to get a lot of stuff down in a good amount of space. Well done.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I was like, it's like 3 pages of just text, but like
it's square.
Yeah, this movie is a lot.
There's a lot going on.
It's a lot of information, and there's a lot of intricacies, especially in the world building and in the science that I know they put a lot of time. There's even like a book on like the science of Interstellar that they wrote because like while they were writing it, they were like working with like physicists and stuff like that to make sure this seemed mostly reliable or realistic in sort of a science sense.
Yeah. But, so I have some fun facts about that.
Okay.
But almost entirely wholly plausible.
Oh, wow.
Almost entirely.
That's cool.
I will say.
There we go.
There's some things that like, obviously they don't, you can't actually send messages in a watch.
No,
It doesn't work. Yeah, I know. Hands don't move like that.
What did you think of the whole love thing?
I didn't hate it.
No.
I didn't hate it. I think what really helped it is Anne Hathaway really sold those lines in that character. I think if you don't have near perfect delivery on that, it comes across really cheesy, but she was just so good that I was willing to eat up anything she was saying. She could say that like silly string's the only thing that maintains throughout the universe. I'd be like, yeah, sure, Anne Hathaway.
Sure, yeah,
I'll
believe
take your word for it.
Yeah, but even like Cooper at the end too, like he realizes that love had something to do with the fact that he was now sent to this space. And so like he's communicating using love and gravity. And I think that was partly just like an emotional thing that they put onto a scientific event. And that was more on like a human emotion character sort of thing than it was on like a science thing.
Yeah.
I don't think they're trying to say that love is something like gravity, that it can, you know, transcend space and time and whatever. I think they're just trying to say that like, no matter where you are basically in the universe or what effects gravity it has on you, no matter where you are, you know, and no matter what time, like you can still feel love for somebody.
Yeah.
And like you can attribute that to some sort of success.
And I think they do a good job of seeding the importance of human emotions, even if not to like the ones and zeros of science, but to the human experience where, you know, TARS has a 90% honesty setting because 10% lying is going to be more important than having the whole scientific truth of something.
Yeah.
And when Matt Damon says that they still need humans to do things because robots don't have that desire to live, that creates the improvisation. That doesn't allow like a robot to improvise enough in important settings.
Yeah, they don't have fear of death.
They don't have fear of death, exactly. So I think it works because it's a consistent thing where they're not necessarily saying that it's a physical force that's going to pull planets towards each other.
Yeah.
But to the humans at the heart of the story, it is important to them, and that matters.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, I don't think this mission really plays out in this way if Matthew McConaughey didn't have that drive to get back home to his kids.
Yeah.
Because like if they had gone like the other 12 astronauts did, knowing that either their planet's going to be good or they're just going to die alone on that planet, then like they would have not really considered the fact of like, oh, well, we need enough fuel for a return trip, or like, how do we manipulate time? Like, do we spend time on Miller's planet to figure it all out, or do we like come back? Like they wouldn't need time as a resource if it was always plan B on everybody's mind. And so like, I don't think the movie or the mission plays out the same way if that is the case. And so I guess that is part of the necessary lie that the professor was telling everybody, and why he withheld that information. And even though it all worked out in the end, it still seems like a fucked up thing to do. But I guess you can also understand it because these people all have like their human emotions getting in that way. So
what did you think of the relationship between Brand, Astronaut, and Cooper? Because they kind of queued up when you first meet them. You expect it to be like a pretty classic romance relationship, but that never really happens.
No, and I'm kind of glad it didn't.
Me too.
I'm kind of glad they kept the hope in Anne Hathaway that she would see Edmonds again, and like that kind of kept them apart. I think at the end, when Matthew McConaughey leaves and she's hurt by that, I think that's just on having another human being and having another friend. Like, I don't think it ever really gets to a romantic sense.
No.
And obviously these people, like, this movie plays out in 3 hours, but to them, it's probably been like several years because they're traveling from planet to planet, and they even say it takes months to get to one place. So there's a lot of just downtime that I'm assuming we didn't see.
Oh, yeah.
And so there was probably a period of time where they were building a relationship, even just like a friendship. And I'm really glad it didn't go to the romance, but like he also goes back to her at the end. And so
yeah, but I also think that was like a crowd pleasing thing. I don't hold those last 15 minutes as part of the movie in my own headcanon.
Right, yeah. That's fair, yeah. Would you see another, if there was another movie that took place after this one, do you think there's enough there to like have McConaughey's character go to Brand's planet? Because I don't think you need any more.
No, I think the story's mostly told. I mean, they are still, most of humanity's on the shuttle heading to a planet. They haven't actually colonized a planet yet, but I don't know. To me, the story was them finding out if they can survive and where they can survive.
Yeah.
If they can get all that done, I'm sure they can send a spaceship somewhere else and get that done.
Yeah.
I would watch it anyways because I want to see that in IMAX, goddammit. I don't care how bad the plot's going to be to make that happen.
If they ever do a re-release of that in IMAX, as sometimes they do, definitely worth checking out.
That is, I hope for that so bad.
Yeah.
That's all I care about.
Yeah. And like, what kind of screen did you watch this on?
Oh, a really bad one.
Yeah. Just like, if you can, listeners, don't watch this on your phone.
No.
It's like, holy fuck. The visual effects, just phenomenal. Like,
unbelievable.
It
Insane.
just blends right into the world. And like the shots of just Gargantua or them outside of Saturn or just everything. It's just flawless.
I watched this on a small little shitty screen
and
it looked amazing. And I was so mad by what it could have been. If it could make that crappy little TV look good, I was so upset. Oh. But you know who wasn't upset?
Ooh, critics and audiences?
I'd say so.
Wow.
What do you think the critics and audiences are thinking of this particular flick?
Well, this was one that was not nominated for an Academy Award, obviously.
For Best Picture.
For Best Picture. Was not nominated for Best Picture. And there was also the controversy towards it.
It was the controversy.
I feel like it's going to be either at the highest 80, at the lowest like a 70 maybe?
Yeah, not awful.
No.
Not awful. Critics on Rotten Tomatoes, 72.
Okay, yeah.
Audiences, 86.
That's fair.
That's fair. Critics, a little rough. IMDb, 8.6, same.
Wow.
Metacritic, 74. So they stayed in line with themselves. Critics and audiences, a little separation there. They knew what they wanted.
Wow.
But what this movie wanted was a lot of money, and it got a lot of money.
Yeah.
It made 678 million buckaroos.
Oh my goodness.
On a budget of 165.
Damn.
So it's a big budget movie.
Yeah.
But it's still printed.
Yeah.
It was number 10 at the box office for that year.
That's solid.
That is really solid.
Yeah. Christopher Nolan has clout too. Like
he does.
I'm glad that there's like still filmmakers out there that carry that sort of clout where they could make a completely original bonkers movie and people would still go out to see it and pay $600 million towards it.
Exactly. He did do Tenet, but you know what?
Yeah.
His reputation has earned him another shot. I will still see the next Nolan movie.
Me too.
Now it's time for our scores.
Oh, yeah.
Normally, I have most of an idea of how I want to score something going into this. I have not made up my mind yet.
Okay.
But where are you going with the enjoyment factor of this?
I think I'm landing at like a 4.5.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it. And like the fact that I have seen this movie now so many times and still come back to it and enjoy or appreciate it to a further extent, I think that speaks highly towards this movie.
I'm going to slap down a 4 for this.
Okay.
If it had a stronger start, if it got out of the gates a bit better, in my opinion, this could be a 5 territory.
For sure.
But I kind of didn't like the movie that much until they were in space. But then I learned to love it.
Yeah. It definitely, like, you definitely want them to get into space. Obviously, the movie is called Interstellar. And so, like, you need to have a little bit of setup before, but, like, they don't fuck around once they're like, Cooper's leaving, he's going to go into space. They basically cut, Cooper leaves, he's in his truck, boom, he's in a spaceship.
Boom. It's beautiful. We're at where we want to be now.
Yeah, exactly.
I just wish McConaughey played a dad. He played a cool, hot bachelor dude.
Yeah.
He did not care about his kids until they abandoned him. And that kind of, especially the scene when they're first in NASA and Brand walks in and he's being interrogated. And instead of asking about his daughter, he hits on her. And that one was like, okay, reshoot that. No, you got that wrong. Yeah. This is not a good character.
Yeah.
Craft, what are you thinking?
Ooh, it's the cinematography, phenomenal.
Oh,
the score fucking hits. Like it's simple in places, but like the fact that they put so much thought into it, that it's definitely great.
Hands down a banger.
I think I'm gonna go 4.5 on this one too.
Nice. I'm going 5. I was just blown away so much. Nice. I can only imagine actually watching this in a proper movie theater that doesn't suck.
Yeah.
It's, to me, 5. Oh, so good. So good.
It is really good.
Execution.
I think this is where I might land a 4 because it's definitely a really well written movie. And there's some stuff that like maybe stretches a little bit, like the whole love thing and then the Tesseract area. It's kind of a bit much, but like the acting's really strong. And overall, like the writing is really good. And so I'm going to give it a 4.
I like that. I'm also going to give this a 4 for very similar things. They should have cut it off or a little bit earlier. They didn't need that ending. It didn't really do anything for me particularly, but it's just so good. Matthew McConaughey could have been a little tighter, but his character got there, so I'm not going to dock it. But I think a 4 is proper.
Nice.
Rewatchability.
Yeah, as I've kind of alluded to, I've watched this movie several times. I think I might just give it a 4.
Yeah.
Just because like I never really think about rewatching it. I just end up rewatching it.
Yeah.
And so like, and it's obviously it's 3 hours basically. And so it's not the easiest thing to rewatch, but like I don't hate rewatching it and I have rewatched it multiple times. So I think I'm going to go 4.
I like that. I am going to go, I think 3.5 on this one.
Yeah.
If it's in IMAX, I will go see it.
Yeah.
But on my own, if I'm rewatching this, I'm only going to rewatch parts. I'm skipping to when he goes to space. And probably around the time that they leave man's planet, I'm going to turn it off. But there are some parts in this that I really want to see again. I just don't care to watch the whole thing start to finish because it's so long and I don't love every minute of it.
Yeah, that's fair.
You have given this a 17 out of 20. For a 85%. I have given this a 16.5 for a 83%. Your ranking currently, as it sits, is Nightcrawler Big Hero 6. Where are you sliding in Interstellar? I bet you it's dancing around Nightcrawler. If I had to guess for you, I bet you it's dancing around there.
Yeah. Now, like, I didn't think this was actually going to be a struggle early on because I'm just trying to figure out if it's first or second.
Yeah, that's where I'm sitting at too. It's definitely better than Big Hero 6.
Yeah.
It's not as tight as Nightcrawler, but the spectacle.
It is like, it's so much more movie than Nightcrawler. And like, I kind of respect that in a way. But you're right. Nightcrawler is very tight narratively. And like but it's also hinging on one very good performance.
Yeah.
I may regret this, but I think I'm going to put it at number 1.
Good call.
Yeah.
I will also be putting it at number 1.
Okay, yeah.
I feel like, there's so much going on. And like Nightcrawler is a very tight.
Yeah.
It's really well executed, but Interstellar goes so big and pulls it off that like I can't help but put that first.
No, for sure. Yeah. Except I don't, like, this is going to sound like a little bit rude towards this movie that we've just raved about, but I don't see this being number 1 for too long.
No, I feel like it's knockable.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't quite tightly package everything it has going on.
Yeah.
But the score, it does the spectacle so well.
Yeah.
But that can only take you so far. If they put Nightcrawler in space, that's number 1.
Could you imagine on man's planet, fucking Jake Gyllenhaal shows up?
McConaughey's character's just laying there and you pan up and it's just Jake Gyllenhaal filming him. Oh, that's good. Fun Letterboxd time.
Ooh, okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
So on Letterboxd, the overall score is a 4.2 out of 5.
Wow, that's pretty good.
People really liked it here. This is a movie buff movie though, so it doesn't shock me. Here's some fun ones though. Van Gogh, 5 stars. Tell me you wouldn't cry too if your son grew up to be Casey Affleck. I do. A part of me loves how funny it is that he does not give one shit about his son. Basically, all the time he's watching his son send him video logs, it's like, Talk about Murph.
Yeah.
Tell me what's Murph doing?
What's Murph doing?
Where's Murph? It's like that one Simpsons episode when they're looking at this one really cute sheep and then they see a cuter sheep and then Homer slaps the other sheep out of the way because the other sheep's cuter. That's how I felt about his son. He gives him a truck and then it's like, your sister's cooler though.
Yeah.
Boring ass farmer. Sieben, 5 stars and a like. Watched on my 13-inch MacBook Air, just as Christopher Nolan intended art.
Nice.
Oh, that's kind of how I felt. I didn't watch it on a laptop screen.
No.
I almost couldn't get my TV to get the Apple account set up to watch it on yours. I was really close because that was the next move down.
Oh, no.
But pulled it out
Nice.
and watched it on my TV. That's sitting at like the foot of my bed and it's like 30 inches. It's not incredible. I had to flip it down to go to the bad reviews. I had to see what people who didn't like this had to say.
Yep.
And this sums up the average Interstellar hater.
Okay.
Alexandra, 0.5 stars. I am too dumb for this, therefore the movie is boring. Alexandra tells it how it is. Shoots to the heart. I am too dumb. This is boring. That does it.
That's about it.
All right, award time. How many Academy Awards do you think this was nominated for? And what would you nominate this for if you were the Academy?
Yeah. I probably got a nominee at least, if not one, for visual effects.
It did?
Okay, yeah, because maybe score.
It did?
Oh yes, okay. Production design.
It did.
Oh, I'm hitting right now.
You hit him.
Is there more?
There's 2 more.
Oh fuck. Costume design?
No.
Oh damn it.
Missed.
Cinematography?
No.
Oh.
Missed.
Okay, those are ones that I would think maybe.
Well, you did guess 5.
Okay.
And there are 5.
Okay.
Best original score.
Yeah.
Best production design.
Yeah.
Best sound editing.
Oh, yeah. That's an easy one.
Best sound mixing.
Yeah.
2 different things, obviously.
Yeah.
And best visual effects. It only won one of those, but it did win best visual effects.
That deserves it.
Most deserved.
Yeah.
I would not hate the sound ones, it winning those as well. I would be pretty happy with that.
No, for sure. Yeah. They've now combined the sound editing and sound mixing into sound design. So now it's one.
Yeah.
Because I don't know why they kept it for 2 for
I
so
don't
long.
know. Like, I get it. If you could have 100 awards, it would make sense to separate those two.
Yeah.
You don't need to.
Yeah. Like, why do you have 2 sound awards still, but nothing yet for like stunt performing or like voice acting or just anything like that?
Yeah. I don't know.
Silly Oscars.
For other notable awards, it was nominated everywhere for those categories. Like,
okay, yeah.
It's just a repeat. BAFTA, the exact same thing, but people loved the score, the sound, the effects, all well deserved.
Mm-hmm.
There were a number of years where I could see this being a Best Picture nominee.
Yeah.
But it's tight field this year, so I'm not even that upset it didn't get to see a Best Picture, but it wouldn't have been a miss.
No.
And maybe if we were to expand this in a later episode in the season where we talk about it, maybe we find its way into a top 10 list.
Maybe
Who
22
knows?
weeks from now we can talk about that a little bit.
Why don't we circle back to this in 22 weeks? Interesting facts time.
Oh boy.
There's a lot.
I figured, yeah.
There's a lot to do with sciencey stuff. I picked just a couple of them, but this is a cool one to go to IMDb and learn about science.
Yeah.
Don't do that in school. Do that in the IMDb trivia and facts from Interstellar. That's where the real science is happening.
Yep.
So as a background, Dr. Kip Thorne was the theoretical physicist that a lot of this movie used as like a consultation thing. He wanted to keep it pretty accurate. So accurate, in fact, that early in pre-production, Dr. Kip Thorne laid down 2 guidelines to strictly follow. Nothing would violate established physical laws, and that all the wild speculations would spring from science and not from the creative mind of a screenwriter. However, writer, producer, and director Christopher Nolan accepted these terms as long as they did not get in the way of making the movie. That did not prevent clashes, though. At one point, Thorne spent 2 weeks talking Nolan out of the idea about traveling faster than light.
Guess he was just a thorn in Nolan's side.
Oh, nicely done. I think that makes sense. You don't need faster than light travel. You can just have him go to sleep and skip. That's fine too.
Yeah.
To create the wormhole and black hole, Dr. Kip Thorne collaborated with visual effects supervisor Paul J. Franklin and his team at Double Negative. Thorne provided pages of deeply sourced theoretical equations to the team, which then created new CGI software programs based on these equations to create accurate computer simulations of these phenomena. Some individual frames took up to 100 hours to render.
Jesus.
And ultimately, the whole CGI program reached 800 terabytes of data.
Oh my God.
This is massive.
Jesus.
The resulting visual effects provided Thorne with the new insight into the effects of gravitational lensing and accretion disks surrounding black holes, and led to him writing 2 scientific papers, one for the astrophysics community and one for the computer graphics community.
Jeez.
These are some of the most in-depth and accurate renderings of black holes ever created, and it's for a good movie.
Yeah,
it's
that's
not
crazy.
for science, it's for a flick.
I love when movies can like impact real life and like real science.
Yeah.
In that sort of way, where like studios are putting a fuck ton of money into this anyways. Like you might as well get like a little benefit out of it.
Exactly. Might as well throw a bone to the scientific community.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's it for science facts. There's 1,000 more on there, but we'll do some other silly ones. Steven Spielberg, who was attached to direct this movie in 2006 and had hired Jonathan Nolan to write the screenplay, chose other projects instead of finishing this one. In 2012, after Spielberg's departure, Jonathan Nolan suggested, hey, maybe my brother Christopher Nolan could be doing this. Christopher Nolan accepted, and the studio just said yes immediately.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you? I think this is off the back of Inception, too.
Yeah, this is hot off the press of Batman and Inception. Yeah. He could do whatever he wanted.
What a bro.
What a bro.
Good brother.
In non-bro things, Anne Hathaway suffered from hypothermia while filming in Iceland due to the fact that her astronaut suit was open while filming scenes in the icy water. Because they filmed the water planet is just a place in Iceland that has shin-high water everywhere.
That's cool.
Yeah, that is really cool.
It was beautiful, and like you could tell, like, I mean, it was either really good visual effects or that was a real place, and like, yeah.
Yeah. And I believe parts of Man's Planet were also filmed in Iceland.
Cool.
And the farms? Filmed in Alberta.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. That's not one of the facts. I just remember that. But yeah, that is wrapping up the facts. There's just pages of sciencey shit that I didn't feel like reading. So,
actually, I remember something.
Yeah.
Now that you mentioned the farms. I've heard this before, but on the land that they had for the farms, they grew the corn themselves so that they didn't have to like CGI it or like cut away when they were driving through it.
Yeah.
So they grew their own field of corn and actually sold it for a profit.
Oh, nice. Yeah. That's how you get to 600 million.
Right.
That was mostly corn.
Yeah. Cool.
Final thoughts on this gargantuan movie.
It's a good movie. And I think people, if like, maybe it's been a few years since you saw it last and you were kind of in that crowd that was mixed about it to begin, maybe give it another go.
Yeah. It's a spectacle. Maybe if your issue was the story or the character, cut them some slack.
Yeah.
Go there to watch Matthew McConaughey fight Matt Damon in space. This is your one shot.
Yeah.
And it's worth it in my opinion. It's a beautiful movie.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's all I got.
That's all I got.
Well, I want to thank you all for listening to Season 2, Episode 3 of Snubs and Dubs. It actually didn't end up as long as I thought it did.
No, we did a good job.
Yeah, we did it. As always, you can find us everywhere on social media at Snubs and Dubs. That's on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Letterboxd, etc. We're also on Good Pod, so make sure to check us out there and join our official Discord. We'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on Interstellar or on this episode, so please send us a tweet or a message with a question, recommendation, or anything else. I'm also at Kyle Tobiasson on Twitter, and Jason is at Windy_Mills. Of course, all those links are going to be in the show notes. Make sure to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Share the show to everyone you know, and check back next week for another episode. Here's a sneak peek of the film we're going to talk about.
I'm willing to meet my creator and answer for every shot that I took.
I'll pick it up. Travis.
That's right. Next time, we're talking about the first nominee for Best Picture this season, American Sniper. So make sure to watch it before we talk about it. I can't wait for you guys to hear it. Thanks for listening. That's a wrap. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.